You're listening to The Blind Chick, an AfterSight original podcast. We're telling you stories about strength, overcoming hurdles, and living experiences. We see who you really are. Blindness can be an adventure. Are you ready for the journey of a lifetime? We are.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Blind Chick. That's Moses Street.
And that's Penn Street, the Blind Chick. And
That's the highlight of his day.
Yeah. Except she knows it. It's awesome. No, we're not going to do the chit chat today.
No, we're not going to chit chat today because we are so
excited. We are so excited. This interview, you are going to, however many episodes of this podcast, you're going to want to hear the whole thing.
Yes. And wait a second, Moses. Wait.
Huh?
I have to do my very important part first.
Oh, no. What?
Yeah. Pause. Oh, it actually worked. I didn't know that worked so well. Today's episode could there may be some explicit content and even in the dialogue. So there may be some explicit content in the dialogue and the content. So this may be an episode that might be triggering for some people. And so if you choose not to listen to this episode of The Blind Chick, we understand. We want everybody to take care of themselves. We are going to be diving into some really, really important and strong topics. And so if you can stick around, we hope you do. But if you can't, we totally understand. Okay, Moses.
I don't understand because this is so exciting. I tell you, you are never going to forget this podcast, no matter how bad Penn and I perform. I have seen the movie twice, and both nights that I watched it, I did not sleep that night because it was so inspiring and so moving. And it is, being a major film buff, it is way better than your average film. And you're all going to want to go out and see The Blind AF.
We can say what the AF stands for, I think, can't we?
Thank you. Blind as fuck. and because this story is about Shawn Cheshire.
Because I did that. That's why I did that intro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. And you're going to want to even skip ahead on parts that are bothering you because you are going to want to hear this whole thing. Because this woman, even though, like many of us, life has thrown everything at her that you don't want thrown at you, she has surmounted all of it. This film where she, on her own bicycle, although totally blind, bicycled across from the Pacific to the Atlantic. On top of that, she made an attempt on Mount Everest, which is just amazing. She did off-road bicycling from Canada to Mexico. She is a Paralympic champion bicycle tandem racer. The list goes on and on. In fact, if you just Wikipedia, we could do this whole first episode just reading her Wikipedia. It would fill the whole thing. Anyway, let's get going because This is just too good. So here she is, Shawn Cheshire.
Welcome to The Blind Chick, Shawn.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I feel like I should do a cartwheel into the room.
That's right.
I know, fireworks going on.
Yeah. After all that pump, Ben's going to get down to the nitty-gritty setup of what you've overcome.
Yeah, where are you coming to us from today?
I am live in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Ooh, I know Flagstaff.
Yeah. And you guys
Love.
make me sound really cool.
You are.
You are.
Yeah.
And that even makes
Yeah.
you cooler because you don't know you're cool.
Yeah.
Well, Shawn, we have a lot to cover. I mean, Moses
Mhm.
was not exaggerating, and he barely touched the surface of what makes Shawn Shawn.
Mhm.
And I'm looking forward to even getting to know some more that's not on Wikipedia or even in the film, because they're
Mhm.
going to be, be as raw as you want, as honest as you want here today.
Okay.
So take us back to like your childhood. We know you through the film that you didn't lose your vision till later, and we'll get to that. But what
Mhm.
was your childhood like? Where did you grow up? And how did that steer you towards going into the military, if it did?
Okay. I was born and raised in South Texas, down by the Rio Grande, in the Rio Grande Valley, like
Yeah.
just north of Brownsville. So, tip of
Wow.
Texas.
Yeah.
Yes, I went to school with. I mean, I feel like the majority of the population, they were children of migrant workers at that time, because we had cotton fields and sugar cane and
Yeah.
grains everywhere, and um, yeah, it was interesting. I I grew up in a home with parents. Well, I know that my mother did not want me,
Mm.
and my father was a football coach and a teacher, and
And we know how important football is in
oh
Texas
my
in particular.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it is. But over the course of time, of sometimes, as children, when we experience trauma, our brains, because we're not emotionally mature enough to process, we compartmentalize, and
Yeah.
sometimes what that is, we don't actually remember a lot of things till we get older. And just I knew that when I had my brain injury, I was 36, and I knew that I had had a bad childhood, but I couldn't exactly tell you why
Yeah.
specifically. um but it was, I grew up in a house that had no love
Oh, honey.
and no nurturing, and yeah, and it was, I guess I didn't really realize just how catastrophic that was to my development as a young adult. And it kind of just sent me into this tumble into, when I joined the military at 17, I was definitely escaping.
Mm.
Um, and it was to me, it was the easiest thing to get out than to go to college.
Yeah.
And I think there was a part of me that was scared that if I went to college, that I would still be stuck.
Yeah.
And I needed to do something that was drastically different. So I ended up joining the Army when I was 17.
And you had an exciting job in the military.
Yeah, I mean, when I joined, so I scored super high on the ASVAB, and I went to all the recruiters because I was trying to figure out which branch of service. And my grandfather retired Coast Guard, and the Army, it was kind of like I could pick a job that I could do when I got out, or I could pick a chance, like the only time I would ever experience doing this would be in the Army. And so I ended up choosing to be a helicopter armament system mechanic. So essentially, what I did was I worked on the armament systems of attack helicopters,
Wow.
is what I did. So I made sure that all of the weapon systems worked, and when they shot them, they hit their target, was
Wow.
essentially what I did.
Wow.
Um, yeah.
And where were
Wow.
you where were you stationed?
I went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina for basic,
Mhm.
and I went to Fort Eustis for school, and then Fort Drum. And I have to tell you, for a South Texas girl who did not experience winter, everybody laughed at me when I got orders for Fort Drum, because that is like where they do Arctic training in the military.
Right.
And yeah, and it was like, I thought I was going to die the first winter there. Did not know how to keep myself warm.
Oh.
It was impressive. So yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And how long were you in the military?
I served 8 years.
8 years. Wow.
Hmm.
And I know different veterans feel differently, but I grew up in a a service family. My dad was in the military. 4 of my 7 brothers were in the military, and then Moses is actually a veteran. And I know people have mixed feelings about me saying this, but I do thank you for serving. It's a choice,
You're
and
so welcome.
I do really appreciate that. I get
So
sometimes,
I have to tell you that the things that I experienced in the Army, there was trauma all on its own,
yeah.
in that as well. And being a woman, I entered a job that had just opened to women, so it had been only available to men up until when I joined, and I was one of the first women um, in this job, and it's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard to prove that you are just as capable as a man in a job like that, and I learned a lot, and I think that had I been more mature when I joined, I probably would have made it my career.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And what made you quit?
So I ended up with a leg injury, and I sustained a severe concussion when I was active duty, and I it I didn't lose my vision, but they just affected me. I've had 3 surgeries in a matter of like 3 years on my knee, and when you're in the military, you have to be able to perform,
Right.
Right.
and I was struggling, and so I ended up getting an honorable discharge because trying to do the medical board would have just taken forever. And I think
Right.
at that point I was a little bit discouraged, and I was just ready to I
Right.
needed a change.
Right.
Well, I
So
think just, like you were talking about how hard it was being, one of the first females in that job, and I know from talking to other female office, different positions in the different branches, it's very hard and lonely because you
mhm,
don't have a lot of other women to talk to and go through those experiences with you. And sometimes,
yeah,
they're not good experiences. And,
yeah.
you know,
I mean, since we're talking
Yeah.
hard stuff, my dad was a pedophile and molested us, or my older sister and I, when we were young. And so when you start life off that way, joining the Army at 17, what you learn from that is that, so when other men in the
yeah,
military were sexually inappropriate, or there was pressure, that's what you learn as a young kid. Like, that's how
right,
you get love and attention, right?
Right.
right,
And so it really impacted me from that perspective. My experience with my father
right,
into the military, and that also, aside from my injuries, was very catastrophic.
Oh,
I
that
didn't know
would,
how to function in
yeah.
the world of men.
well, yeah. And you grew up not knowing, right? You
Hmm.
didn't know that. At least, I know with me growing up in an abusive home, I didn't know, even though I knew it didn't feel good, I knew it was wrong, even because we are told that,
Hmm.
but it's don't tell anybody, and
Hmm.
then you grow up as a woman with those same values, right? Because they were
Hmm.
instilled in you. And
Yep.
it really takes the grace of God to intervention to change that course. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand that. They don't
Hmm.
understand what's going through your head when you're in those situations. So I,
Right.
I can't even imagine. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, kudos to survival, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No
Right,
joke.
right.
No joke.
Yeah.
So how did you transition out of the military into
Hmm.
becoming an EMT?
So there are aspects of my story that we didn't put in the movie just because
Yeah.
we wanted to protect my kids.
Yeah.
And when I was out of the military, I actually was towards the end of my time in the military, and I was having my third major surgery on my left leg. I was attached to a reserve unit. But anyways, um, I went home because I had my oldest daughter, Brittany, in the military. They allowed me to go home attached to a reserve unit so my grandparents could help me while I was having surgery with my daughter. And I, through that process of recovery, I was working as a server part time at Applebee's just to have a little extra income. I didn't
Right.
want my grandparents to have to foot the bill for
Right.
a lot of things. And
Yeah.
um, my ex-husband was federal law enforcement at the time, and I didn't know who he was, and he stalked me, and
Oh,
and had an unfortunate experience with him, and I ended up pregnant
Mm.
with my youngest. And then 6 months later, and this was never like a meet, fall in love, get
Right.
married. It was more like a shotgun wedding because I think that being scared
Yeah.
and having that pressure of having to marry him with the threat of like hurting my family and stuff like that, I married him. And so then now I'm wherever he is, and I just, it's like it's really incredible because my grandmother essentially my grandparents raised me at the age of 12. And one of the things that my grandmother told me, she couldn't undo the damage that had been done at that
Right.
point, but what she did was she just really loved me.
Yeah.
And she would tell me that I can do anything that I
Yeah.
set my mind to. And it just really stuck with me because just remember through such horrible times with my ex-husband that I had this voice in the back of my head, and I was always find myself in the shower crying, like,
Mm.
how am I going to live through this? Like, how am I going to do this? I just didn't see me growing old in that environment. Right. So it's like,
right.
Yeah.
is this going to kill me? And I just had that voice in the back of my head of my grandmother of like, you can do anything you set your
Mm.
mind to. So you think about all the years in which he just tortured me, and being
Wow.
law enforcement, I really learned all the bad things, right?
Yeah.
And I know that not every law enforcement officer out there is bad.
Right.
However, all of the ones that are surrounded my ex-husband were horrible people.
Mm.
And when I started thinking that it was possible for me to leave, I had to think about what that would look like because I knew that the women's shelter was like 90 days, and which is not a lot of time. And so I like had
No.
to pre-plan. And so I started it was the time where my ex-husband went from federal law enforcement to New York State Police, and he was at the academy. And because he had to be gone during the week, I took it as an opportunity to go to the local fire department and take an EMT class because then I thought
Oh,
that I could
wow.
get a job. And I thought I would try to use my military service and be a firefighter. But EMT was the first stop. So if I could get the certification, then that meant I could get a job and leave.
Right.
So that's essentially how I um, kind of, you know, stepped into the role of becoming an EMT. And so after I left in the middle of the night with my two kids, and I stayed with a friend at first, but he would just leave his patrol area and just like walk into their home in
Oh.
his uniform with gun, intimidating people. So I just
Oh,
realized like it was better off for me to go to the shelter than
Mm.
yeah.
to put someone at risk like that.
Right.
And then I just eventually, when I started working full time as an EMT, I went back to school the same time I was working full time and took out a student loan. A small student loan so I could pay for childcare so I could go to school. Because, I mean, I just remember when I was injured as a paramedic, I was getting paid $16.50 an hour. And so
Wow.
I knew that I couldn't survive on just an EMT's pay. And going back to school to be paramedic, I thought maybe I would work with rescue, with the fire department, but I really loved taking care of people.
Mm.
So I really kind of just stayed in the role as a paramedic um, to help people. I
Yeah.
mean, I
Right.
loved it. I did some volunteer firefighting, and but man, I really loved caring for people.
Oh,
So even with the wonderful job you did in the military, and
Hmm.
then you walk into another great job helping people in the ambulances, and then that led to a crummy thing. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
stop it.
I see a pattern here, Shawn.
Yeah.
yeah. I know, right? I'm still trying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't remember the accident. But yeah, I just it changed everything. But honestly, I just did not know that up until that day that I was injured, I did not realize how everything that I had experienced before that impacted me and how dysfunctional and unhealthy I was. And just like when you're in survival mode and
Yeah.
you've learned everything the wrong way, especially when it comes socially or relational,
Yeah.
it I don't know how I did it. I don't know how I survived until 36 years old, the way that
Wow.
I was living.
So
Wow.
how long were you in EMT before the accident?
So I got my EMTs. I'm terrible with time. I'm
Oh,
so
that's
sorry.
Uh,
okay.
I believe I got my EMT around 2005, and I was injured 2010.
Okay, so a few years in,
Mm-hmm.
you were in the groove, and
Yeah.
you can tell by your voice that you loved it,
Mm-hmm.
you were making a life for your kiddos. And then so so I know you don't remember the accident, but what has been told to you happened?
We that we had a combative patient. It was a snowstorm, and I had a student with me, but because my partner was already going to get in the front of the ambulance to transport us, and we were all getting situated, I think that there's conversation whether the patient, as I was getting in, because I was down by his feet, got kicked and knocked back.
Oh,
I don't. There wasn't. I mean, my recollection of working many winters in upstate New York, there wasn't really snow in there. So the assumption is that I got kicked back
mm,
backwards as I got into the back of the ambulance.
wow. And what
Hmm.
injuries did you sustain?
Just head injury, blunt force trauma to
Just
just that's all. Okay.
blunt force trauma to
Podcast.
the back of my
Yeah.
head. Yeah, I
and
mean,
and this is your second head injury
hmm
within what, 7 years? Like, not that long, right?
yes. I'll let you do the math. I'm terrible with
Yeah.
numbers.
And
Yeah.
and for those who don't know, and I too have had one too many head injuries.
Hmm.
Is head injuries, they add up. So
Hmm.
the every time you get another one, it actually takes
Hmm.
less than the one before to cause serious injuries. So
Yes.
when you came to, I'm guessing you were in the hospital.
Apparently, I don't remember this, but apparently we transported the patient. I kind of got
Oh, you
I was sitting on the back bench of the ambulance after I kind of came to, and just told them to go because it wasn't a life-threatening patient. The patient was stable, so my student was running the call, and we transported to one hospital, and we went in, and they said I was just dazed, and then I just started projectile vomiting, and then they
Yeah, they know.
transported me to the trauma hospital. I don't remember any of this. I do
Right.
the first memory I have after the injury is a very it's a piece of a memory of where, like, I couldn't walk. I
Mm.
was at my apartment and I couldn't walk, and I was crawling, like, to go to the bathroom, and I couldn't even sit up to eat.
Oh,
But I was so sick.
yeah.
But I don't know what the time frame from the injury to that memory is.
Wow.
And how long was it until you really comprehended that your vision was impacted because of the brain injury?
Mhm.
And so your eyes are normal, healthy
Mhm.
eyeballs. It's the brain, which the
Mhm.
brain controls the whole body.
Yeah.
Darn thing.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
God should have thought about that and split it up in different places. But anyway, that's another conversation. But yeah, it's because of the head injury. And so how long was it until you really realized that your vision
Well,
had
it
been
took me a
impacted?
couple weeks to be able to get into the concussion clinic, and I was going as an outpatient, um, a couple weeks, so maybe 3, 4, I don't really remember
Yeah.
to be able to answer that with clarity.
Yeah.
Um, I yeah, I don't know, but I think as they started testing me at the concussion clinic, they started discovering like why I was so sick. And it was weird because like my brain didn't know where my feet were.
Right.
So I had to do this physical therapy for that. And my eyes were not tracking together. So they were kind of moving independent of each other. And I had no peripheral vision. And so we just, I think slowly as we just did tests, is kind of how we discovered the impact
The severity of it. Yeah.
of the brain injury. Yeah.
I know. I'm so sorry. We're going to stop the episode right here because we actually have this in 3 parts. And so it's going to be fantastic to be able to move on and hear more of Shawn's story. So if you want to hear more of her story, please click that subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you do not miss next week's episode or part 3 with Shawn. And you're going to want to hear all of our other fantastic guests coming on. We also want you to check out all of our other podcasts, Blind Level Tech, Blind Sight, Navigating Life with Vision Loss, which is coming out in just a few weeks. And we also have our new show, Code Orange, coming out on September 2nd. So you're going to want to check those out. Visit us wherever you get your podcast. Aftersight.org/podcast is another great way. Follow us on Facebook. Send a like, share our content, and it's a great way to keep up with what's happening at Aftersight. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for all of our listeners, all of the people who submit questions. We could not do this without you. And as Penn always says, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. It's good for your soul.